Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 183, which is called The Hand, and we are in the middle, of course, of a manga arc, so this is the episode to adapt the chapter of the same name, which is the third chapter of 4 in volume 5 of Boruto. Once again, it's a very accurate adaptation. The new scenes are all of the scenes with Kara, so Amado, Code, Delta, and Boro in this episode. They're all completely anime new scenes. Then in terms of the rest of the episode, they added in one extra little bit to a scene between Boruto and Sumire, and they took out one small section of the going through and testing some of the ninja tools. Other than that, really accurate. It hit all the main points that you would expect in the anime, and did it pretty well overall. This was not the episode that required them to do crazy, high-end animation. This once again is more of a setup episode. This was meant to be the episode to change Boruto's mind on ninja tools and Katasuke, and that's what it did. It accomplished that pretty nicely through the use of course, Katasuke, Sumire, as well as Akita, our new character introduced here, who is the scientist running this lab, and she's from the Inuzuka clan. So, Kiba's clan, that's pretty cool. And she's a pretty fun character as well. And yeah, I think the main things with this chapter are obviously that the moment where they explain the backstory about the ninja hound, that sort of connects the dots on a lot of what we've been dealing with in these early episodes of this arc. Of one thing scientific ninja tools offer quite heavily is the idea of much of the technology for prosthetics has basically come from ninja tool research. And so we've seen through Ao, when we met him, Naruto's hand, of course, as well. That's a very important part of the episode to bring it all together. It's a prosthetic hand, I suppose, that is the thing that sort of protects the village, one of the Hokage's hands. Ao, this ninja hound as well, was able to continue to be a ninja hound, all because of prosthetics and what, people like Katasuke are doing. So Boruto, who is still dealing with, what happened to him in the Momoshiki arc, with him, cheating using ninja tools, and, Katasuke being under the influence of genjutsu, and kind of, putting the ninja tools in Boruto's hands, you see why he has his doubts about them, but this episode turns that around through the testing of all of these things. So I really like the way they introduced this. They immediately get them into some sort of sparring testing. It's Sarada versus Boruto and Mitsuki, but Sarada has a ninja tool. There's some nice taijutsu, but then it ends with Sarada engineering a situation where she sets off this smoke and flash grenade, basically, and yeah, it deadens all of their senses, and it allows her to get the advantage. And it's a useful tool. Typically they only have smoke bombs, and then there's maybe one other iteration of that, but now here's a sort of all-in-one, this will disrupt every single one of your senses device. There's a usefulness to that, and I like how they slowly do it, of Boruto's not really into it after this. Then they test the gloves that allow you to walk and climb walls without using chakra, and he sort of gets into it a little bit more. And then it's the flying ninja kite thing, which you can see here in the manga. That's the thing that really gets him into this. They sort of extend this scene in the anime a bit, just to show that Boruto's really enjoying it, and getting the voice actor to show that he really does like this. But of course he crashes into the ground, but it sets up the scene with Sumire, where she heals his minor injury using a foam spray that, again, Katasuke has developed, which is very useful. This is probably one of the most interesting sections of this episode, in terms of, if you're anime only, this won't be any sort of an issue, just seeing Sumire here. But in the manga, it was kind of an interesting thing at the time to see her show up, because most of the anime only characters hadn't really ever made an appearance in the manga up to this point. So this episode, I think, did that quite well. And it makes a lot of sense. Like, they set up through Sumere's arc why she would come out here, an effort to try and control Nue. And, this scene with Boruto makes sense. She's their class rep. The new scene, though, is that she does mention to Boruto here, before they get into the Ninja Hound backstory, that she is going to be transferred to Katasuke's headquarters back in the village. That is not in the manga, but I suppose technically happens. So they're sort of using what ends up happening later on to their advantage here. And I suppose that is potentially to set up maybe some of these pre or set up arcs for future manga volumes, and that, like, oh, we might get an arc involving Sumere back at the village, once this is all done. So all of that was, I think, pretty well done. Just in terms of changing Boruto's mind on ninja tools and changing his mind on Katasuke as well. But there's still a little bit more Katasuke development to come. But they ended, of course, with one of the coolest ninja tools we get here, which is basically the lightsaber, or the chakra sword here, which such a cool device, but obviously not particularly practical the way it's presented here, in that Boruto has it on for maybe like 5, 6, 7 seconds, and he feels like really, really drained of chakra. So it's not a particularly efficient device, but it's really, really cool and interesting for sure. And I suppose just it's an interesting thing of just like Boruto asking Katasuke to be like, can you make Naruto's hand as cool as this? That he's all for it now, and they emphasize on the kind of plaque for Katasuke the whole idea of he exists to support, and he's always about supporting people. And so it's Boruto realizing that he is a good person, and the whole what happened before wasn't fully Katasuke's fault, and they'll address that as the arc progresses. That sets up the scene with Naruto, where he calls in and basically says, okay, you need to abandon your current mission with the Ninja Tool Squad. You have to back up Konohamaru and Mugino. So Boruto is informed by Naruto. They've lost contact with Konohamaru and Mugino, and they're the closest team to that site. So they have to send them out there. So a big moment here. Like, Boruto, I suppose, gets what he wanted from, like, I think it was last episode when they were assigned the mission. He wanted a higher ranked mission. This is it. And you see when they hang up the call, Konohamaru is like, I get you're worried, but they know what they're doing. They're good. And Naruto just shows that, he is a bit worried, but, they should be able to do something here. This is where we get just, a little bit of a setup right at the end of the chapter of just none of the villages are claiming this airship as their own. What are we dealing with here? What land could possibly create a state-of-the-art airship like this? And, the suspicions are beginning to arise. Is it Kara? Are they that big of an organization? Have we sort of miscalculated here? And so, that's what the setup is here of just, our main team is going now into battle, basically against Kara. So this is the major setup piece in terms of, okay, now we're going to see Boruto, Mitsuki, and Sarada join up with Konohamaru and Mugino. We know Ao is also on the way to claim the vessel. What's going to happen here? That's the importance here of just like, okay, everyone's going to come together. How are these reveals going to happen? How bad of a state are Konohamaru and Mugino in at this point? Mugino, we know, is injured. Konohamaru seems okay for now. But they're up against like so many of these Kara puppet things that we don't really know the specifics on. But I suppose that leaves the only real thing to talk about to end off the episode is all of the Kara scenes, which, like I said, were new. These were not in the manga. The manga is a bit more mysterious about Kara up to this point. You don't really get to know too many of the characters. But the anime is being a little bit more open about here's the name of this character, here's the name of this character. They're getting chances to speak a lot more. And I suppose the main thing this episode accomplished was Code we basically still know next to nothing about in the manga. So this was actually, for everyone, our first time ever really getting to see Code's personality. And it's interesting because Delta seems to imply that he's actually quite close to Jigen, but he also then doesn't know about the recent sort of situation that happened about level 3. So Jigen, despite being close to Code, has kept quite a bit of information from him, and Code feels a little bit like, oh, like, what's happened here? He kind of comes across a bit like he's almost like spoiled that like he's so close to Jigen. I didn't expect that to quite be his personality, but they seem to be presenting, I thought he'd be like the really cool, like potentially one of the most powerful of them. They could still do that, but here they're presenting a slightly different side to his character. And I don't know if that makes me feel that like, okay, that means he is going to get up to something important, or he's maybe not as important as we think. It's hard to exactly tell based on just, again, probably our first 2-3 scenes with Code, getting to see his personality, but just that, he is a normal person ultimately, even though he's one of the inners in the main villain group. The preview does show him seemingly attacking Jigen and getting like thrown off screen. So I don't know if that's just going to be a thing where like Code just being sort of petulant is just like, you didn't tell me this thing, and charges at Jigen, and Jigen just throws him and he's just used to Code overreacting like that. Is it going to be a little bit of a kind of comedy thing with him, in the same way that in this same episode, they're getting across that Delta is a bit rude to everyone and quite cutting. Boro is very arrogant and doesn't feel the need to particularly join in with the rest of the team, as we see here, and he thinks he's being summoned by God and stuff like that. They're giving you a glimpse into the characters here, but the core setup is that they're all thinking about what happened with Victor. Code is sort of suggesting that, well, he did say he was sabotaged. Should we believe that or not? And Amado's sort of questioning, like, oh, you think there's more going on here than we think? And they're more concerned about, like, oh, why was Kashin Koji the one sent out to kill Victor? Why not me? More so than particularly suspecting anything else going on. But we do get a quick scene of Amado talking to Jigen, where he's like, I've looked at the I've done an analysis on all of their bodies and nothing seems odd about them, so I don't think any of them are the traitor, but we haven't scanned Boro or Kashin Koji yet. So the setup seems to be that it's going to either be Kashin Koji or Boro, who is the traitor who sabotaged Victor, and has sort of framed Victor for everything. So that's a cool setup for something that we'll see later on. But this content isn't perhaps like the most important content in the Boruto manga, in that the action is going to start next week, and from then on I think the arc is going to be much more intense and interesting. Hopefully with all the groups together, it will allow Mugino to be a little bit more of a focus, and use the development he's got in the pre-arc to this to have a better have better content within this main arc, I suppose. So this episode did its job really well, adapted well with some new scenes, only some minor cuts. I'll quickly cover the thing that was cut out that I didn't mention so far. One of the devices that they mention that they have here is this random thing that Akita just randomly activates, and it's revealed that it's a device that erases all sound. We've named it Shijima, or stillness. By colliding specific frequencies of sound waves, you can drown out any and all sound. And they just kind of have a page or two describing what this is. I guess in the anime, this would have been a maybe slightly difficult scene to do, in that visually there's not a lot going on, in that she presses a button and it's all in the audio. And it's not the most important thing, but you know, I get sort of why they'd maybe want to cut over that compared to, you know, walking on walls or the flying device or the chakra saber. The the stillness button doesn't have as much of an appeal, I suppose. But you know, very very minor cut. It's pretty much one of the only things they really left out in the episode, so not too much of a problem. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were, but that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.